Hello, vocal jazz educators and friends. This is Gerhard Guter. I wanted to share with you a technique that I figured out in the past couple of months. During this time here, obviously, with all the remote learning that's taking place, the value of part tracks and guide tracks has escalated. This is something that I've been, making in various sequencers through the years, but I found a really neat way of doing this in Logic, and I wanted to share it with you. I know a lot of you are using Logic now. What I'm going to do is play a little bit of this piece, and big shout out to my friend Jason Smith, who wrote this arrangement. It's called Reflections of Dizzy. It's a really cool tune, and let me just play a little bit of this to you so you can sort of get the feeling. And I want you to just notice the fact that we've got, spots in here where the texture is primarily just two voices, but then you'll also have these little one voice run-ups, and then we've got these three-part chords. So we're going to deal with splitting these out, hopefully in a very efficient manner, using a technique that I hope many of you will find useful in the future for creating your own guide tracks. All right, so let's listen to a little bit of this. So you can hear we ended with a three-part texture on top and the women. Now this goes up to 4, the split. So we've got, I'm going to call it SSAA. So what we usually do is, or at least what I usually do, is to cut and paste depending upon what the texture is, and I end up with a ton of track. But I want to show you a technique that can help you sort of minimize all of those extra tracks. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use a score editor and a feature that you may not be familiar with. It's called the staff style feature in Logic. So I'm going to create a custom staff style here, and the reason we're doing this and we're using the score editor is, first of all, we'll see all this in notation, and secondly, we're going to be able to, like I said, split out all of these voice parts in such a way that hopefully it's going to be a lot faster. So we're going to go to the open staff style window now, and I'm going to come to new. I'm going to create a single staff style. I'm going to call this SSAA, and we can add more staves from this little plus icon right here. They're going to show up as bass clef, but I can change those right here, or I can come down here and change it like that. And the important thing here is to assign the MIDI channels independently. So we want to make sure that our top sopranos have channel 1 assigned, seconds have channel 2, and we're talking about MIDI here, musical instrument digital interface, 3 for the top altos and 4 for the bottom altos. So now we've got staves for all 4 of them and a staff style that we can use. So I've selected this track, and I'm going to open up my score editor, and it's Command 5, and I've got this huge notation. Now this was given to me by a student assistant in the form of a music XML file, which is why it still has all the lyric. Generally, MIDI file won't carry the lyric along with it. So you can see all this. It looks pretty big, and everything is just sort of operating on one staff. But remember that we created that staff style, so I'm going to come up here to Style Treble, and I'm going to go to my SSAA staff style. So what we're looking at here is the 2-part texture, and then the 1-part texture, and then over here, this bottom line is going to need to go push down to the 2 alto parts. So the cool tool that I have found is this one called the Voice Separation Tool. It's unique to Logic, and it's unique to Logic Score Editor. So you won't find it anywhere else in Logic. But if you go ahead and select that for I've done that as my command click tool, then what you can do is you can hold down the command key, and you'll notice the icon changes, and you can just draw across these notes like so. And if I'm lucky, I got them all, which I did. So I've pushed that down to second soprano. Obviously I want this line on the E flats to go down to the bottom 2 parts. So I'm going to demote them again. I'm going to hold down Command, and I'm pushing it down, and every time I push it down, it's actually assigning this to a different MIDI channel. If I click on this note, you'll notice that the MIDI channel assigned is 3, the top one is 1. So this is one way of splitting this stuff out. Then I can select these notes, and I can do some copying and pasting. You would think you'd be able to just drag these notes down to the last staff, but it doesn't quite work that way. So what you can do is you can just copy and paste, clipboard style. So I could do Command C, Command V. Now, yes, I'm going to write over what I have. You'll see that there's now a tie that's inverted. But if I go up to MIDI channel here, where it says 3 now, and set it to 4, then I've got the altos broken out. Now, I've got the text here. The only problem with having text is that if I make a selection like so, look over here where it says MIDI channel. If I make this selection, the MIDI channel disappears, and the program gets a little bit fussy. So I could blow off the text if I wanted to. I could click, I could click and drag and delete like that. The other thing I could do is I could do that sort of throughout the file by going to my lists editor. And you'll see that there's these recurring meta, that stands for metadata, and that's all the lyrics. I could actually filter the notes out, and then I could just go through, make a selection of all the metadata, hit delete, and then it would all be gone. So you'd be able to copy consistently from that first staff. So the workaround for that is just start that demoting process that I talked about right away, or the voice separation tool process right away. So I'm going to hold Command, and I'm going to push that down to the second alto. Now, I'll show you another copying technique. I can just click on this, which by the way is on MIDI channel 2, as you'll notice. I can click on it and hold down Alt Option. I've got the little plus, drag it back up a half step, and now we can see, because of those ties that are there, we can tell that events have been copied. So I'm going to place these up into MIDI channel 1, and now we've got that assigned to all 4 staves. So it's taken me a while to talk you through this. Let me try to accelerate the pace a little bit. By the way, if you are going to copy and paste using the clipboard method, Command C, Command V, you need to make sure that this playhead marker is where you want to begin that pasting procedure. That's important. All right, so this needs to go to the altos, so we go like this, and you can use that little copying trick that I showed you. Go to MIDI channel 4 here, and then here, push all these down, then that copy, okay, and let's see if it made a copy that time. Yeah, I didn't think it did. Usually you'll see another accidental appear, so you got to be careful when you hit that Alt Option button. There we go. Okay, you see the extra accidentals. MIDI channel 1, voila, okay. And then we've got this. And just to show you, if I get rid of this text and I get rid of this phrase marking, then I can actually, I'll get rid of this too. Then I'll actually be able to make that selection and then do the copy paste. Yeah, okay. And then take that clone and assign it to MIDI channel 2. We've got the altos here, pushing them down, and notice the inverted tie. That means it copied itself. And that's sometimes how you can tell if it copied itself there again, is you'll get the inverted tie. If you don't get anything extra appearing, then you probably weren't successful in copying. All right, so that takes care of some of that stuff. Then we've got this part that needs to go in both sopranos. Or I can simply push everything down to the second voice using that voice separation tool, and then do my copy. So I'm going to copy this information. Now, I'd mentioned earlier that the playhead marker, which is up here in measure 8 somewhere, okay, we're in measure 12, needs to be set to where you want that pasting to begin. There is a command that's really useful. So let me go ahead and copy this. Remember, I'm going to assign this also to the top sopranos. So I've copied that to my clipboard. And then there's this important function called paste at original position. So that's going to create a duplicate right there. So then I can go to my MIDI channel and select 1. All right, now this is where hopefully the usefulness of this process will become more obvious. So I've got 3-part chords now. I'm going to draw that line. I'm using my voice separation tool, Command drawing, and I need to push the very bottom note down one more, and actually I need to bring it down once again because I'm going to double in the second sopranos and first altos. So now it's a matter of creating a copy of this. Okay, you can see the inverted tie, which means I made a clone, and then assigning that clone to MIDI channel 3. All right, so it took me a while to get through, talk about all that, but the good news is if you do this, you build up a speed with it. There's about 2 or 3 things to remember as you're doing this: the voice separation tool, the MIDI channel up here, and of course, creating that staff style type that we talked about earlier. So now what I can do is I can play this back. You're going to hear all the women at once, okay? But just this first time. So listen. Yeah, that's not part tracks. Yeah, that's not very useful to us, is it? All right, so what's cool though is since we just did all that with the voice separation tool, I can open up, I have an instance of Kontakt here. And the great thing about Kontakt is I've got these synths that work on multiple MIDI channels. So it's an omni mode right now, but it receives on up to 16 discrete channels. So if I select channel 4 here, for example, then when I hit play, all we're going to hear is the bottom alto part. And I'll skip forward a little bit. Yeah, notice that none of those lines, the single part texture that were assigned to the 2 sopranos played back. Yeah, so if I wanted to hear just my second sopranos, then I would select MIDI channel 2, which corresponds to them. And then, of course, when I get to the 3-part split, I get my note in the middle. So I hope that this is useful. What you would do next is just export. So you would go to the end of your Logic project. So we've got like bar 97 as the end. You can just click and drag your end cursor there to the end region. And then it's just bouncing. So we go to File, Bounce, Project or Session. And then, we're going to be bouncing our second soprano part it is that we left off with. So anyway, I hope that's useful to you, and hang in there, just a little bit longer to go with all this, and I can't wait to see you all again soon. Take care.